Welcome, dear brothers, to those who follow the work of this team daily, and to those who join now. Today we want to talk about the attacks and possessions in convents. Do you believe that the devil only lurks in the shadows, far from the lives that aspire to holiness? Do you believe that goodness and faith are impenetrable shields against his attacks? Do you think that the evil one cannot enter the convents? Because you are wrong. The consecrated ones are not only the most attacked, because the evil one knows that his fall drags many more people, but he has even been able to possess entire convents. Here we are going to tell you two important stories about attacks by the evil one and possessions in convents that happened through works carried out against the nuns. Gabriella Moore had already said that witchcraft works are the vast majority of the causes of possessions. First of all, we want to remind you to subscribe to this channel by activating the bell and to our newsletter. And on the screen you will see how to collaborate with our mission on Patreon and also on YouTube, so that this Catholic team of the Americas can continue to finance their research that you will not find on another channel. Now, there was a recent case in a Carmelite monastery in the Philippines that suffered from a witchcraft work. This monastery had no history of similar experiences, but suddenly they began to experience extraordinary things that they could not understand. This monastery is in an area where what is called the path of the practitioners of the occult is found in the Philippines. There is a route where witches and healers offer their services. People go to these healers seeking to heal physical, mental, or spiritual illnesses, but after receiving treatment they get sick again and are referred to other healers in different villages until they finally reach the last village, which is precisely where the convent is located. In each village, the treatment seems to help initially, but the person's condition progressively worsens, and at the same time, upon reaching the last village, the patient's situation is usually critical. This is important because this last village where the monastery is located used to be a particularly lucrative center for local witches. However, with the construction of the convent, their business decreased significantly, and to counteract the influence of the convent, the witches tried to attack him by infiltrating him. And they did it using a benefactor of the convent who introduced a practitioner of the covert occult to the nuns. This individual gave them religious objects infested with t-shirts with images of the Virgin and Jesus Christ, as well as religious medals supposedly blessed by 3 popes, and the nuns, without suspecting anything, accepted these objects, believing that they were legitimate blessings. The items contained inscriptions that looked like Catholic prayers, but were actually spells written in distorted Latin. They were also given water that had been ritualized by the practitioner of the occult, and after receiving these objects, bad things began to happen in the monastery. The nuns became ill and could not perform perpetual adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and began to see spirits. The community even began to have internal conflicts until they finally asked for help from exorcists. When the exorcists from Manila arrived, they asked where the objects were. In the middle of the night, they were shown the places where they had buried the medals. The exorcists collected the items and performed liberation prayers at the site and advised the nuns never to accept religious objects, food, or anything else without blessing them first, as it is not known what intentions may have been behind this case. It is a good lesson, but it did not go any further, and the next one did. This is one of the cases of mass possessions. The most famous took place in 1634 in the small French town of Loudun. The case of the possessed women of Loudun is probably the most famous case of collective diabolical possession known, and books were written about it and films were made. But also in 1670, for a large group of nuns from the convent of Santa Clara in Trujillo, Peru were possessed, and recently, a case was made public, narrated by the priest Luis Dumin, an exorcist who performed exorcisms and expelled demons in a convent in Vietnam. It all began with a menace. A pagan man had fallen in love with a young Catholic woman. However, she wished to become a nun and join a congregation of sisters. Annoyed, the man went to a famous Buddhist pagoda in Den Song and asked the genies, who are described as demons, to make the woman abandon her religious vocation and marry him. As a result, the demons began to infest the convent, trying to force the woman to leave or be expelled by her companions. The first extraordinary manifestations of the demon were attempts at personal infestation, nocturnal voices, and stones flying through the air, interrupting the novice's sleep. Sometimes, the woman was beaten by an invisible hand all night long. This began in mid-September 1924. The nuns then called Father Luis Dumin, a young missionary to whom the convent was subordinate, and reported the events. At first, the priest did not believe the stories but took precautionary measures, hoping that the phenomena were of natural origin or some nervous disorder of the novices, and that they would soon cease. However, things became increasingly worse. On the night of September 21st to 22nd, while the devil tormented the woman, an incident occurred that was reported by all the novices. One of them took a crucifix and gave it to her to kiss, and surprisingly, the image of Christ disappeared and was not found until the next day. Also, a mysterious and terrifying rain of heavy objects was thrown against the convent almost every night. Stones, bricks, sticks, potatoes, empty bottles, and more. Importantly, there were noises that lasted for 2 years. Bird songs, horse neighing, horns, car and ship sirens, wailing, sonic laughter, gnashing of teeth, banging on doors, and drumming. Then there were the frightening apparitions of fantastic beings of extraordinary size and terrifying appearance. Sometimes, the demons would take on the appearance of their confessor and give disconcerting advice to the young novices. Without divine grace, the nuns would have abandoned the convent or gone mad. The devil had told the woman, "Someone has come to my pagoda to ask me to bring you back to the world. I will not leave you alone until you leave the convent." But what saved the nuns was their obedience and reporting everything to their superiors about the demon's traps. One night, the demon lifted the woman into the air and said he would take her to her lover's house. He took her 15 meters to the end of the novice's dormitory, but she was able to kiss a relic of Saint Therese of the Child Jesus that she had with her, and the evil let her fall. Little by little, several novices also began to show strange signs of demonic infestation and even possession. After spending some time studying the situation, the superiors tasked Father Luis Dumin with performing the exorcisms to free the nuns. In total, 9 novices were exorcised. Each of them had to be dragged by force to the place where the exorcisms were to be carried out. But gradually, thanks to the exorcisms, novenas, personal sacrifices, and penances, the possessions diminished, and in 1926 they ceased completely. Despite all the devil's efforts, none of the postulants or novices left the convent. The woman died a holy death on August 16, 1944. This is what we wanted to share about these real, but lesser-known cases of attacks and demonic possessions in convents. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share this video with your friends and leave a comment about what you think about the subject. We would also like to know if you are aware of other cases of priests and nuns who have experienced possessions.